You guys have fun at our expense, okay? Today, I hope as we go through this, and guys, we have been feeding you a lot of information, and rather quickly. Today, if you listen to Rob's prayer, it was talking about give us some names and conversation opportunities to have with your lost friends. Today, we're going to be talking about how to have those conversations. And we're going to go through it rather quickly. And as we go through it, try to use your own mind about how can I apply this to my life right now. Because we're going to go through an acrostic here in a minute, which is firm. And the first one's family. But sometimes family
word for the blank,
friends,
family.
Friends and stuff like that. But I asked a question last week. Do you remember the answer? What's the most important question you'll ever answer in your life? Anyone? The most important question you'll ever answer in your life? I'll tell you one more time. What are you going to do with Jesus? And why is that question? I mean, it's more important than who you're going to marry, where are you going to be when you grow up, where am I going to live, and everything. And right now, I know that those are big questions. But the bigger one, because it has eternal value, meaning it will go on after we live this life here on earth, is what am I going to do with Jesus while I'm here? Am I going to accept him? Am I going to reject him? And your friends, the people that you value with most, have to make that same decision too. And where are they going to hear that? Hopefully from you. Hopefully you love them so much that you won't hate them by not telling them that there's eternal life after this life here on earth. Oh, by the way, one quick plug. These signs here, they're beautiful. And if you go to Blue Springs High School, you might know Matt Marble. These signs were made by Matt's wife, Audrey. And so I just needed to give her a little plug for doing that. But thank you. Okay, Lorinda.
Hey, everybody. It's good to see everybody. We have had so much fun with you all. And this morning, as I was getting ready, and I was listening to the sermon, and I was thinking about the illustration that Randall gave about the air traffic controller and about the lighthouse. And I would ask you to search your hearts today and ask yourself, who's my air traffic controller? Is it my friends? Is it a teacher? Is it somebody in this room? Who's my lighthouse? And if we are putting our faith in anything of this world, they're going to let you down. And I loved that illustration, that you trust that the person in the air traffic controller tower sees the big picture and is guiding you away from harm. Put your faith in Jesus. He has proved himself trustworthy, gang. We had a friend this last week on Super Bowl Sunday that took his life. And I was so burdened about some of the kids in this room because Dennis and I are very aware that some of you are attending this 4-week class, and you may not yet have even made the step to accept Jesus Christ as the person that's going to be in their air traffic controller for the rest of your life. We get that. And so some of this may seem foreign to some of you. In fact, after today, you're going to take a sheet home with you, and you're going to write out your story, and you're going to be prepared to share it next week. So those of you in this room who don't yet have a story, I am offering you a chance to make that decision today. I'm offering you an opportunity to talk with your leaders, to talk with somebody in your group that you respect. Anything, y'all. Don't put it off, all right? And we have lots of things in our lives that God will try to use in our lives to bring us to him. Please do not tarry, do not delay. Dennis and I lived a lot of our college life away from Jesus, and it's one of my biggest regrets is I rub shoulders with people every day that I could have been pointing to Jesus and I didn't. And then we left college and we both found our way back to our faith. And I remember sitting around a restaurant table with some sorority sisters and I was telling them about my newfound faith and I'd just gone through experiencing God. And they looked at me and go, oh yeah, Lewis, that's great now. But in a few months, you're going to be right back where you were. We know you'll come back and hang out with us and do the stuff that we enjoy doing. And you know what God did? He brought every one of those friends to him. And now all four of us, we are able to share our faith and our faith journey and help each other through our faith journey. And that's how God is so faithful. He replaces whatever you have right now that you feel like, oh gosh, I don't want to trade this off. He replaces it with so much more, all right? So I just wanted to get that off my heart. I just want to pray real quick before we jump into the myths and truths, all right? God, I just ask that if there's anybody in this room right now that doesn't know you, that's on the fence a little bit. You know, they like coming to church, maybe they like hanging out, but they're just not ready to take that step. God, I would ask that you give them the strength and the courage to just step out in faith because you have proven that you are trustworthy. You are the lighthouse. You are the air traffic control that sees our life and helps us live in a way that honors you and draws people to you. So I just ask if there's anybody here today that doesn't know you, Lord, that you will draw them to you. Use Dennis and I, use Rob, use our leaders in the room, use circumstances, use whatever you need to, Lord, to bring them to you. We ask this in your name. Amen. All right, let's look at our myths and truths from last week. And I think Rob put these on a slide, maybe? All right, here's the myths you all wrote down. This is everybody's input. These are the things you said were not true. You identified these. All right? People won't listen. People will be upset. You have to be extroverted. No, you don't. There's living proof. This man right here is an introvert. I'm an extrovert. I talk to myself a lot because he doesn't really talk. So you don't have to be an extroverted. You don't have to be an extrovert. All right, so these are the things you all said. Maybe these are things we thought were true, but they're really not. All right? And I'm sure Rob will give you a copy of these if you want them. Here are the truths that you all said, all right? It's freeing. It helps you make connections. It builds more confidence. It can have a domino snowball effect. Dennis and I attended a conference years ago by Herb Hodges, and you know what he said to us? And I did not want to go. I did not want to spend my Friday night sitting up in the auditorium. But it was one of the most dynamic things I've ever attended in my life because here's something he said to me that was so powerful. All you have to do is tell people what you know, teach people what God's already taught you. That's it. That's it. You don't have to know the whole Bible. You don't have to know every verse. And in fact, on those I gave you all some index cards, and we're going to address those next week. But a little bit later on, you're going to identify one thing, one question, or one comment that might trip you up in sharing your faith story. And Dennis and I are going to give you some answers to give in that moment if you don't have an answer, all right? So I don't want you to walk out of here panicked thinking, oh gosh, what if they ask me a question I don't know the answer to? We're going to give you some answers for that. So these are the truths, all right? So this is what y'all said. And y'all came up with a whole lot more than the adults did. And I was so impressed with the amount of thought you all gave this. If you share it, at least you can leave a stone in their shoe. Y'all remember what that means, right? You just plant a little seed. And you might not do the harvest. You might not get to see them, accept Christ right then. But you get to plant a seed. All right, questions about any of this before we jump in? All right, so lesson 2. Everybody there? So what are some ways you can start a spiritual conversation and go from high to talking about Jesus? And there's a little acrostic. It's called FIRM. First one's family. Everybody can connect with family. And I'm not going to read the paragraph. Y'all are all grown up. You can read. What about interest, sports, hobbies, anything that you can connect with? You know what the key to this is? And I'm going to give you the bottom line first here. You got to listen first. You got to ask questions. You got to show interest. And you got to walk away from having your face in your phone all the time. We got to give eye contact. We got to ask questions, show interest, and listen for connection. The third one is religion. So here are some religious questions you can ask. Now, here's what I'm going to ask you to do, and this is individual. Individual. You don't need to share with anybody in your group. We've listed some fun questions there, all right? And some of these come from a book, Sharing Your Faith Without Fear, or Sharing Your Faith Made Easy. Some of them are questions Dennis and I like. I want you to identify one or two questions that you think would be comfortable for you to ask. All right? Just identify a couple of them. I like to ask number 9. It's kind of my favorite. Tell me how you stand on faith. You know, where are you on faith? It's just kind of a nice general question, and you find out. Like, I have a very dear friend that says, well, you know, I like crystals. I really like to lay crystals around me. And you know what my response was?
That's
okay.
crazy, Dawn.
No, I didn't say that's crazy, Dawn. I said, okay. Okay is a great answer. Don't allow people to distract you and take you down a rabbit hole that doesn't lead them to Jesus. So pick a couple of questions that would be comfortable for you. Just put a little star, check mark beside them. I just want you to try them on for size, all right? That's all I'm asking. Just test the water. Put your feet in the baby pool. I'm not asking you to go to the deep dive. Oh, and by the way, we have less blanks this week. Dennis and I are learning a lot about the whole blank thing. So we have less blanks for you to fill in. Yay? Okay. Yay! Next page. Listening to their answers is critical. Be intentional and focused. Do you know how hard it is to listen? Let me ask y'all a question. What do you think your average immediate recall rate is as a human being? So as I'm talking to you right now, let's say you don't have a handout. Let's say you don't take a note. Let's say you just, you come in here and you listen to Dennis and I, and somebody catches you outside the door and they go, hey, Chris, what did they talk about in there? Do you know what best case scenario is that Chris will remember? What do you think the percentage is of the things he'll remember in this room? If he doesn't take a note or he doesn't have a handout. Best case, immediate recall is 50%. 50, best case. Now, some of you might be more like 7%. Thank you for keeping it honest, keeping it real. All right, so 50%. So he goes to bed tonight, he goes to sleep. The next morning he wakes up, that drops in half, and half of that's distorted. That's crazy, isn't it? We don't listen very well. And then we got our phones, which are a huge distraction. So what Dennis and I are going to ask you to do with your testimony once you get it written out in bullet form is I'm going to ask you to put it in your phone in bullet form. So if you get nervous, you go right to your phone. We're going to share a plan of salvation with you next week called One Verse Evangelism. It's the easy button. Everybody like the easy button? We like the easy button. Yeah, easy button. One Verse Evangelism, easiest. Put it in your phone. You get nervous, pick up your phone. We can use those phones as a tool for evangelism, gang. Okay, so listening, and it's hard, is my point. We got to be intentional. Go where their story leads, not where your story leads. You ever gone up to somebody and said, hey, you know what, I need to share with you some struggles I've been having, and they start talking, or you start talking. Let's say it's you. And then they all go, oh, I know what you're talking about. And then they go off on a tangent all about their life. Y'all, we got to go where their story leads. We don't let them give us an opportunity to dump our story. There's this phrase called dump the truck. Anybody ever heard of it? Dump the truck? I know sometimes teachers may do it, and they give you, a 15-page syllabus, and they want you to absorb all of it like in 5 minutes. Dump the truck means you don't share your whole life story in that minute. You go where their story leads. And you think about making those connections from that firm, family, interest, religion, and the last one is message. All right? Message. Now, you will see right above the word message, where it starts with the letter M on page 2, the gospel is always the same. The way you approach it and how you approach them is going to be different. And those questions we just looked at are completely non-threatening. Completely non-threatening. I already gave you one classic answer to give if somebody says something that's like, whoa. Like my friend Don who goes, I believe in crystals. Okay. I'm not going to debate with her. I'm not going to tell her she's going to hell. I'm just going to go, okay. And we're going to get back on track talking about Jesus. All right? Now, the message. So you can see there, it's not just about dumping biblical facts. We must move from religion to the message, which is a personal relationship with Jesus. And your personal testimony explains to other people where you were, how you came to know Jesus, and then what happened after. 3 parts, gang. Can you handle 3 parts? In 2 minutes or less. Everybody hear me say that? Because what did we tell you the first week? What's the average adult attention span for your generation? 2 minutes or less. And it's getting shorter. It's getting shorter. Like I see a lot of you, I've already lost you about 10 times today. We know that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Look at the bottom of page 2. I think it's your bottom of page 2. Hang on. One moment, please. Please hold. So at the bottom of page 2, it says, none of this will be productive unless we introduce them to Jesus. Help them understand what Jesus did for us right from the start, that he came from heaven, died for our sins so we could be rescued and free. We're going to stay focused on the main thing, which is Jesus. Main thing. So whatever they say, if it's going to get us off track, your first classic answer is okay. Let me just give you all of them, and I'll put them on a slide next week in case you don't get them, okay? Our second classic answer is, wow, that's interesting. I never thought about that. Let me do some research. Let me get with Rob, my youth pastor, and find out more about that. Be ready, Rob. All right? That's interesting. I never thought about that. Let me get with Rob, find out more about that. All right? That's answer number 2. Here's my favorite. You ready? Wow, I know I don't get that story in the Bible either. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible that's really mysterious. And, I don't really understand everything either. Here's what I do know. Here's what I do know. So you're going to flip it to what you do know. So here's what I want you to do with your index cards. Here's what I want you to do with your index cards. I want you to write out one thing that would trouble you the most. So you're going to have a quick discussion, like, maybe 60 seconds. Make sure you got somebody with legible handwriting that's writing this down. You're going to write down one thing that if somebody said this to you while you were sharing your faith story with them, that you wouldn't know how to respond. You're afraid it might throw you off. So, and you can write more than one. If you can come up with more than one in 60 seconds. And then Dennis and I are going to play with some of these next week and show you how these answers work. All right? All right, you ready? You got 60 seconds. On your mark and set, go.
Yeah, just write. Yeah, later.
Write them on your index cards. Whatever comments you're afraid of that people might say when you're sharing your faith story. Yeah, I forgot. I need to repeat it 3 times. Sorry. Just write any question or comment that might throw you off on your index card.
You're distracting me. My pleasure.
Okay, time is up. When you have finished, bring your cards up to Dennis. He's going to collect your cards. Just send somebody up with your cards. Okay, has everybody brought their cards up? So we're going to play with some of these at the beginning next week. And we're going to show the 3 classic answers you can give to any tough question. And you all are going to get to pick the answer you think would be best for the comments that you just fed us, all right? I want to show you how this works, because it's better to show you than to tell you, all right? And let you all pick. Now, everybody got the word for the blank at the bottom of page 2. What's the word for the blank? Jesus. Ah, I love it. Okay. So, turning to the next page, y'all, page 3. We're going to share our personal story. You share with people how you came to know Christ in 2 minutes or less. All right? You're going to involve them by asking questions. Hey, has anything ever like this ever happened to you? What is your faith story? What do you think about faith? You're going to make sure you have a really good opening and a really good close. Hey, if I could share a way for you to have hope every day of your life, would you want to hear about that? So there's this guy who wrote a book called Sharing Your Faith Without Fear, the prison guy? Okay. And he goes up to people in the street and he asks them questions. He goes, so what do you think about this guy, Jesus? And they tell him, and he goes, so if I could, do you believe there's a heaven and a hell? And they would go, a lot of people would just say, no, I don't think there's a heaven or hell. The next question, this is so amazing to me. The next question is, so do you think if you died tomorrow that you'd go to heaven or hell? Every single one of them say heaven. Even those that just said, I don't believe in heaven or hell. Every single one of them say heaven. And then he says, well, if I could tell you a way to for sure get to heaven, would you want to know about it? And if they say no, you know what he says? Okay. Okay. You know what? I'm here, though. I'd love to tell you more about it when you're ready to hear, when you're ready to listen. We're not going to cram it down their throat, because we've all been there, too. When Dennis and I were your age, we went to Nolan Road Baptist Church. Here was our training on how to share our faith. We were given the 4 Spiritual Laws tract, a little booklet. I don't know if anybody ever seen that little booklet before, that little 4 Spiritual Laws booklet. They read it to us. They gave us like probably 50 apiece. They took us in cars up to Kmart. They said, okay, blitz the parking lot, go save some people. Yeah. And I think I was like 0 for 10 that day. Because it was just reading a book. It wasn't personal. We weren't making personal connections. You all rub shoulders with people every day. And you know that domino effect, I love that when somebody put that on the truths, in the truths. Because you touch one, you bring one to a saving knowledge of Jesus. We don't save anybody. We just compel them through the Holy Spirit. That's it. Then they share with one, and they share with one, and they share with one. Imagine refuel. Let's say you got 50 kids here that don't know Jesus, that come to know Jesus that weekend, and then they share with one, and then they share with one, and then they share with one. Amazing, and you got to be part of it. You got to be part of it. So in Corinthians, I think this is printed in your handout. I don't think I told Rob to put it on the slide, but it's in your handout. 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you of, thank you, Rob. I want to remind you of the gospel I preached to you, which you received and on which you have taken your stand. By this gospel you are saved if you hold firmly to the work I preached to you. Otherwise you have believed in vain. For what I received, I passed on to you as of first importance. It is the bedrock of your life. It is the foundation of your life. That Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures, that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the scriptures. That is the truth of the gospel right there. All right, I'm handing it over to Dennis. How much time do we have?
We're going to go. We're going to
Okay.
go. I really love this next part where we're talking about a personal testimony. We've done this class twice with the adults upstairs with one of your student mates here. And I tell you, when we shared testimonies, it's a very special time. Kennedy had a group of adults in tears sharing her faith story. It was so thought out and so meaningful that it was touching people 70, 74, 75 years old. We all have a story just like Kennedy. We all have our own personal faith story. And God did not intend us to keep that to ourselves. He wanted us to go out and change the world by sharing what he has done for us and how he has changed your life. So the first thing about developing a personal testimony is to personalize your message. Use your testimony as a point to identify with the other person. And you do that by showing that other person a little bit about yourself.
That's the word for the blank.
So it's yourself.
That's the word for the blank, yourself. Let them see some of yourself.
Secondly, as you're doing that, you know, we're trying to keep their interest. So people love to talk about themselves. So when you're talking to somebody, sharing your story, let them see themselves in your story as well. And that was the second fill in. Always be positive. Let them see the benefits of the gospel and major on what the
Okay,
difference.
let them, to emphasize the positive is number 2. Is that filled in already for you? Okay, awesome.
Emphasize the difference Christ has made in your life. Emphasize this faithfulness of God. And then create that opportunity in the ending to share the gospel with them. There is a great example of how to prepare your testimony in the New Testament in the book of Acts. And Paul is actually sharing his testimony with a group of people. It's Acts 22, and it's verses 1 through 23. So the 3 essentials that Paul used in sharing his testimony, he had an introduction. He told them what his life was like before he come to know Christ. So as you prepare your own story, think about what your life was like before you met Christ.
How many of you remember what Paul's life was like before Christ? Anybody remember? What was his life like before Christ? What was he doing? How was he living? He was living a sinful life. What was he doing? He was killing Christians, and his name was Saul. All right? Go ahead, Ned.
All right. The second thing that Paul addressed is how he came to know Christ. And we all know that story, that he was on the road to Damascus to kill and persecute Christians. And then he was blinded on the way. And Jesus met him, and they had their conversation back and forth. Even at that time, Paul goes, or Jesus has Saul, why do you persecute me? And at that time, Paul calls him Lord, right there. The third thing is the after. And Paul wrapped up his entire story in one verse of chapter 22, and that's verse 21. It's what your life is like, what after you have met Christ, what eternal life means to you. So be specific and positive. I want you to take some time in your group. I want you to discuss this question. How would you make connection? How could you make connections with others from your life experience?
So think about your own life experiences. What have you already experienced in your young life that you could use to make connections with others? For example, my grandson and my granddaughter have both gone through a divorce. And their dad didn't act very Christ-like. And for 6 years, they watched their mom and dad struggle. And so that is a point, I call them pain points. That may be too strong for some of you. But that's how they can connect with friends that they have, other friends that are going through divorces. And we know that divorce is prevalent. And I'm sure there's people in this room who have experienced it. So for them, that's how they can connect with their friends. Those are the kinds of examples we're looking for. So spend maybe, what, 2 minutes?
At the most.
Yeah, 2 minutes at the most, kind of talking about and throwing out ideas of how you can connect with people from things in your life, all right? You got 2 minutes. On your mark, get set, go.
Why? If we can.
What's that verse?
Which verse?
The last point in Paul's
Acts 22, verse 21. Yeah. What does it say?
Go, I will send you far away to the Gentiles. So that's what happened after us. He took the gospel to the Gentiles.
Yes, he took
Okay.
it.
Are you looking at the list?
Not having time. It's 11:30.
Do I have to hard stop still? You can tell me.
I'm just assuming that's what time it is.
You want to go back and ask me? All right, let's see what you came up with. Just kind of shout out some of the things you talked about. Let's start over here. Just shout out some things you talked about. Let's start with this group. Shout out a couple of things you talked about. I'm going to try to hear you. All right. All right, that's all right. I know 2 minutes cut you off, I know. All right, so somebody that's going through a hard time and you maybe have experienced something similar. Is that what you just said? Because I'm trying to hear you. All right. Okay, very good. A death. All right, how about somebody over here? Anything different? Sports injuries. Yeah, as he comes in injured. Well done. Yeah. All right. How about y'all? Anything? Sure. Anxiety, mental health. How many of you have friends that talk about their mental health a lot? Yeah. It's very prevalent. You know, my son is a high school teacher, as is, any other high school teachers in here? Flip and Brett. And Brett says he has kids come into his room to eat lunch with him. And he says, you need to go eat with your friends. They go, I don't have any friends. God, that breaks my heart. So yeah, mental health. Anything else from this group over here? Anything else that you wrote down? Going once, going twice, that hasn't already been mentioned. Once, twice. All right, anybody from the middle section? Anything that hasn't been mentioned? Loss of friendships. Okay, I think we all have experienced that. Unfortunately. What's that? Injuries. Did you say siblings? Yeah, siblings. Eee. All right. Flip, what about your group? Anything different? Sickness? Cancer? Absolutely. And Flip's wife is my doctor at the cancer clinic because I'm a breast cancer survivor. So, and I love Laura to death. His wife is the bomb. His wife is the bomb. Okay, what about y'all? Anything different? Moving. Oh, yeah, moving a lot. Having to pick up your stuff and move. Anybody over here, anything different? Oh, sports, making a team, not making a team. I never made a team. Yeah. I made the Christian team. Thank you. All right. What about y'all? What's that? Moving schools. Nobody's mentioned boyfriends or girlfriends. I love that. I love it. All right. What about back here, gentlemen? Okay, relationships. Ladies? Feeling lonely and what? Oh, all right. So here's one. And I hear this a lot. Feeling lonely. Anybody have any friends that feel lonely and distant from people? Anybody have friends feeling lonely? Remember the stat I told you last week? The more technologically connected we get, the more psychologically disconnected. We have to be intentional to lay down our phones and give people eye contact and our full attention. Because it's not easy, because they're so distracting. There's so many fun games. Yeah. All right. Anything from you all? Anything different? Yes, sir. So, well, I don't know if I can call myself a good Christian, but I used to struggle. So I used to struggle with something, and now I don't because Christ is in the center of my life. I love that. I love that. Anything else from y'all? Yes, sir? I think he's your talker. Yeah. Right. Somebody, just personal rejection. So everybody in here has something that they connect with people about. All right? Okay. Dennis, are you taking this next?
No, we got to be.
All right. Here we go. Is he telling us to wrap up?
Yep.
We have to wrap up? All right. All right, here we go. You ready? Principles to remember. Everybody got that? So all the words are filled in, are they not? Hallelujah. All right. So when you leave, I'm going to have all of your teachers come up and get a worksheet for your testimony. So I want you to look at those 8 things. Everybody, page 4. Can everybody see those 8 things? This is your moment to ask questions about any of those 8 things that we need to remember concerning our personal testimony. This is your moment to ask questions. And there's that question I just shared with you on number 8. Has anything like this ever happened to you?
Are we going to ask them to write their testimony? Come back with one.
Yeah, we are going to ask you to write your testimony and come back with one next week. For those of you who have come to a place in your life where you've given your life to Christ, and we have a worksheet that you're going to be filling out. So, 3 things at the bottom of the page. Quickly, because I know Rob's going, oh my goodness. Okay. Know your story and be prepared. That's why I'm asking you to put it in bullet form in your phone. Ask questions. Give them time to answer. That's the hardest thing for us, is to give people a chance to answer. Listen first, and then I included a Covey quote that I love. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They don't care how much you know about Jesus. They don't care how much you know about the air traffic controller or Jesus in your life unless they know that you really care about them as a person. And then it is very difficult to effectively share your faith without a developed testimony. Not word for word, because I'm going to encourage you to write it out in bullets, like little phrases, and put it. I don't want it to sound rehearsed, and you're not going to share all aspects with everybody all the time. Next week, when you come back with your testimony, we're going to go over that one verse evangelism with you, all right? And we're going to talk about your cards you handed in. So, questions. We went through this quickly. Questions. Going once, going twice.
Rob, can I have just 2 minutes?
All right.
Just 2 minutes.
Floor is Dennis's.
I'm going to share. This is what I carry in my Bible. It's right in the front. It is my testimony, and I'm just going to read it to you so that it's in 2 minutes to let you get an example just what we're talking about here. I was one of those kids just like you. I sat in a youth group every time the church doors were open. My parents had me there. I had teachers, I had leaders that poured into me like crazy, and I soaked it up. I had this head knowledge that if someone would ask me a biblical question, I was pretty good about recalling it and bringing it back. But that's what I had, was head knowledge. As I was growing up, I fell away from the church and got after graduated high school and went to college and probably didn't attend church again for another 4 years or 5 years. Heck, maybe even longer than that. But I fell away from church. I became a very selfish guy. I was a me-only type guy. I would just think of myself. I would lie. I would cheat. I would steal anything to get ahead. I had met my wife, and my lifestyle was just leading us straight to a divorce because of my selfishness. Then on the morning of June the 4th, 1984, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go and run a Hospital Hill half marathon. Yes, I did do that. 8 miles into it, I got run over by a car. It dragged me 100 feet underneath this car. And so for the next 3 weeks, I spent in Baptist Memorial Hospital. And while I was laying in that hospital bed, Jesus, that I had all this head knowledge, moved from my head down to my heart. He saved me. I had one of these stories that, he saved me for a reason. And as I was laying on that hospital bed for 3 weeks, I was trying to figure it all out. But I do know that as soon as we got out of the hospital, I taught my wife we got to go back, get into church, and began growing with him in our spiritual growth. And then our marriage was beginning to heal as well. Started developing new friends that truly, truly cared about me. Those friends that I had before that, they kind of drifted away. I wasn't able to go and do the things that I used to be able to do, nor did I really want to. So the church asked Lorenda and I to become involved in youth ministry, which scared us to death. But for the next 27 years, Lorenda and I chose to be with you. We loved hanging with you and laughing with you and watching you grow and hopefully taking what you have heard from us into your life and not do the same mistakes that Lorenda and I did. Many people think that June 4th, 1984 was a tragic, tragic day. Actually, it was the best day that ever happened in my life. God moved those 14 inches from my head to my heart, and that's who I am, why I am who I am today. And have you had any of experiences like that? See, that's my testimony.
Is that 2 minutes or less?
It probably was a little bit more because I stutter. I'm not a smart man. But
He is a smart.
thank you for listening. But that's what, just write down your story, something like that, so somebody can tell it. You have it written out. Kennedy has hers written out somewhere. Just do that and bring it back.
All right.
Okay,
Here-
Rob.
I have these sheets that, as Rob comes up, we're going to have these. Everybody take a sheet home. And do not worry about it being perfect. I just want you to take a swipe at just sharing your story next week. 2 minutes or less, all right?
So, students, I'm also going to encourage you because for some of you, you're like, this might never leave the church. As soon as you get that sheet, just take a screenshot of it also. So that way you can have it at your house and just work on it. Y'all know you're not getting a few days of school, so you can do something while you're home. Okay, leaders are handing those out. While they're doing that, I want everybody just real quick. Just because we're going to wrap up, but I want you to do something for me, okay? I went ahead. If you did what I asked you to do earlier and shared that Instagram, I deleted it because it was wrong, it was messed up. There's a new one that is on there now that it's going to look very similar, but it looks like this, and it's actually the full. That was a mistake there, so that is the new one. I am proud of you because some of you guys, we already had like views popping up left and right, so get back on there, share this with your friends this week. You have those things to take home. So you have 2 assignments today or this week. Put together your testimony and invite your friends. I will encourage you. We're getting ready to go to our parent meeting right now. Hold on. We're going to end with this. We're getting ready to do our parent meeting, which is going to be about 25, 30 minutes. It's going to be pretty quick. Leaders, don't forget, we're going to have like a very short meeting right afterwards. It's not going to be our big meeting. Students, Karen just brought down our registration that's so far. Last year, we had 182 students signed up for Refuel Weekend. Right now, which we're still 2 weeks out, we are at 118 students signed up, which is way up past where we normally are at this time. You guys are amazing, but hey, let's keep inviting and reaching out, okay? Let's see what we can do when we start praying and asking God to move, okay? So take that stuff. What I'm going to need you to do is I'm going to need Hey, with those, this is a very good point. With your testimony, you are not writing those and like presenting them to the student ministry. So for some of you that are the extra or introverts, I know you might have just like, I'm throwing this away and I'm not coming back next week. Those are going to be possibly shared in your small group alone if you choose to. No one's forcing you to like get up and speak out. This is also just for you to have because you may only share this with a friend someday. It's just for you to have, so don't be scared or intimidated by that. I'm going to need all of you guys over here. I'm going to have all of you here in a moment pick up your trash, stack your chairs up against that wall over there, and I'm going to have all of you guys bring your chairs and make rows over here because we are going to have a parent meeting. On your way out today, Stephanie and Travis, sorry, I'm going to ask you guys. There's a table right over here. We handed out these prayer little devotionals for the next 21 days, I think, which is perfect because it'll help you guys get your hearts ready for refuel. I would love for you guys to take home these little devotional packets. It's got about 2 or 3 verses to read a day, and then some thoughts and a prayer on it. If you're not doing anything already anyway, this is perfect. So grab one of those cards or little baskets that Stephanie and Travis are going to have at the door on the way out. So let's stack our chairs over there. You guys make some sort of rows with your chairs here. Grab a devotional book on your way out. And your parent meeting is right now. It's getting ready. They're already coming down. So, equip. Don't forget high school students. They're easy equipped tonight. 5:30 to 7 o'clock tonight. We'll see you all there.